Good afternoon. Please archive this show. You will hear me say that a lot, and even in our promotions, we ask that you archive this show because it is connecting KC on Cascade TV, which means making connections between those who are attempting to make our community better. In this case, the connection is a generational connection, talking about the civil rights movement, those who lived it, those who are studying it, and this particular program features members of Friendship Baptist Church, a congregation of Jesus Christ, where the pastor is the Reverend James A. Terrence Jr. My name is Carl Boyd. I'm your host, and I'm going to ask our very special guests this afternoon to introduce themselves. In the case of the young people, the schools they go to, and perhaps how old they are. The elders will not necessarily have to say all of that, but at least let us know who you are and how you happen to be here today. I'm going to start at my immediate left as we meet our very special guests.
I'm Jordan. I'm 15 years old and I go to Olathe South High School.
I'm Xavier Byers. I'm 12 and I go to Center Middle School.
I'm Brianna Ward. I'm a senior and I go to Oak Park High School.
I'm Richard Burton. I'm 16. I go to State High School and I'm a junior.
I'm Melba Curls, and I'm a member of Friendship, and I'm an elder.
I'm Minister John Shields. I am a Sunday school teacher at Friendship Baptist Church.
My name is Jerry Jones, and I am the grandmother of Jordan Mitchell.
It turns out that a very special program at Friendship Baptist Church featured these young people who are with us. And during the course of what they had to say and the way they had to say it, it occurred to me that they were talking about an era when some members of our church were participating in what they were discussing. So the first thing I would like to do is ask the young people present with us today whether or not they have questions of our elders and if they remember precisely what it was they were talking about on that particular day. So, young people, in any order that you wish, will you just let us know what part you played in that presentation at Friendship?
I played the 16th Street bombing when the 4 girls were in the church bombing.
I played the Greensboro 4 where that was the first official sit-in where they wouldn't leave the restaurant even though they were antagonized.
I was also a part of the 16th Street bombing, and I talked about African Americans who achieved greater than anyone thought they could.
I also talked about the sit-in as well.
What was it like for you guys to live through the civil rights movement?
Well, I've told my granddaughter stories of, I remember whites only bathroom signs. I remember one that was green with glitter, and having asked my mom, well, why can't I go in there? And thinking that this bathroom must have been made of gold since I was not able to use that facility. Now I tell her things have changed, but in my lifetime, things have also, we have to work hard to make that change. I was telling her I was the only African American female police officer for the city of Overland Park for years in the early 80s. Life has changed, but there's still things we need to work on.
And Minister Shields.
Well, as we look back at the civil rights movement and the things that were going on, yes, there were a lot of uncomfortable things. There could be atrocities. There was atrocities that was committed. But in the reality of it also is that we had a better community for ourselves. We were more united as a people. We had our own economic structure. And I think that in some ways, when we achieved so-called equality, we lost something very powerful and very good. Now, Melba and I were personally involved in that civil rights movement. And if I don't say anything else today, I want to tell you something. We were asked to come out and on the front lines of the civil rights movement because they were hitting the adults with water hoses and dogs, and so they utilized the young people. And we had to go through a long training session to be able to do that. And when we were finally ready, I remember when we were going out, and Aunt Daisy,
Yes.
who was our coordinator, told us something that I'll never forget, and I think I've shared it with some of my students, and it has lasted me a lifetime. And that is, today we are going forth, and it's interesting because our Sunday school lesson today was "Go ye therefore," but we were going forth, and she told us, as you go forth, today and all days, remember this: you're going to be called all kinds of names. There may be some people that try to do things on you, but through your lifetime, you remember this: when people of any ilk call you anything, they are not labeling themselves. They are not defining you. They cannot define you. The only person that will ever define any of you out there or in this room is you. You define you by what you're going to do.
Praise God.
It's interesting that as we're thinking about back in the day, well, we're still here. I have a few notes, and it says, in my lifetime. In my lifetime, we picketed and we did sit-ins. We were nonviolent. And that training that we went through taught us, it said, no matter what they do to you, if they say something or if they try to push you, don't retaliate, because we were nonviolent.
That's right.
And we followed the rules, and we would picket and sit in or do whatever we had to do, and we were nonviolent. And here in Kansas City, I didn't see any, when I was growing up, I didn't see any signs that said colored here and white
we
there.
didn't face that.
But we knew where we could and couldn't go. We knew where we could and couldn't do. Our parents taught us that. And my mother, I didn't get to go to a lot of stuff because she would say, well, if you can't go when you want to go, then they're not going to pick a day. You're not going at all. I said, oh, Mom, please. But because that was her attitude, you know.
That's
You
right.
ought to be, it's open to the public, and we're the public. So that's...
Please keep the camera, or we'll take the camera back to Melba Curls, because understanding as a matter of schedule, she might not be with us for the entire time. She has some questions for the young people, and we want to be able to identify who is going to speak next. And I think that we have such a great group of young people that all of them will want to talk. But let us know who's going to answer one particular question that Melba Curls brought with her this afternoon. Melba Curls.
Okay, I didn't really have a question per se.
I'm sorry.
I had something to share.
Oh.
I just wanted to tell you about the song by Marvin Gaye. I don't know if anybody's ever heard it before. What's Going On? That's relevant today. I didn't download. I had my daughter to do it because she's more, efficient on the computer. But I read this song, Mother, there's too many of you crying. We've got a mothers group right here in Kansas City, and their children have been killed or something has happened to them because of the atmosphere that we're in. And then it says, Father, we don't need to escalate. War is not the answer. We got all kind of things going on in our country now, and only love can conquer hate. I just wanted to say that. But these words, this was back, I don't know, in the 70s, Marvin Gaye, I don't know if he did the 70s or what time, but it was back in the day. But this song is relevant today.
Now, what we can do, is ask that this camera move from right to right to right, with young people responding and or asking questions. So to the right of Melba Curls, to right, and then we'll go across the table. The question that is on the table is, did you have any questions for the elders, and or did you have something special that you wanted to say?
I do have a question. During the time of the civil rights movement, do you think there was a time where you ever wanted to give up or you struggled?
I would answer that by saying no, because I learned the power of unity then. It was very enjoyable. Every day, Melba will probably remember this. We used to have to get out of school every day and go and march in front of the Board of Education, round and round and round. And as I look back to it, I realized that I developed friendships and relationships while we were struggling. And we had something in common. And I can only speak for myself, but I learned something then that serves me today. I had a purpose driving me. And I would encourage every young person to make sure you have a purpose, that you are working towards something. Don't waste your life thinking everything is fine. There is something that God created you to do, and we all need to get about doing it.
During the civil rights movement, I know y'all were supposed to be peaceful, but if y'all had the opportunity to fight back, would y'all?
We were not trained to fight back. We really did not. No one that I know that was in our group here in the area fought back. And when the first day I went to college, this is the truth. In Lawrence, Kansas, KU, my mother and dad had left, and somebody I didn't even know. Are you a freshman? I said, yeah. Come on, we getting ready to march. I said, okay. I didn't even know why we were marching, but I went, and that's how we were friends, and we communicated with each other. Like, we're still friends. We've known each other forever, but it was like a camaraderie, and so it wasn't negative. It was a positive thing.
Were we ever tempted to fight back? No, because we had been trained that our power was in nonviolence. That was a teaching of Mahatma Gandhi, that you can't fight a monster that thrives off of a substance with that substance that strengthens them. And violence strengthens ignorance, and that plays into their hands. We were taught that the best thing we could do was look in someone's eyes and smile and show them what their ignorance could not deter us.
From the civil rights movement carried on to my generation for what I needed to do to stand strong in the jobs that I faced when I faced racism and criticism, that I had to continue to stay strong and not worry about trying to fight to win my rights, but to be strong at all times.
Good.
How did Emmett Till's death affect you personally? And if it didn't affect you personally, how do you think it affected the world?
Could you ask that once more?
We didn't hear all that.
How did Emmett Till's death affect you personally? And if it didn't affect you personally, how did it affect the world? Or how do you think it affected the world?
I think it affected the world in it shocked them. When you have an institution like slavery and an institution like systemic racism, there has to be a certain amount of denial in the hearts of those who are perpetrating the things that they are doing to keep others down. And when Emmett Till's mother said, no, don't close that casket, keep that casket open, and she wanted the world, and that was a powerful thing for her to want to, for her to want the world to see what America had done to her child. That was, I hate to say it, but it served as a great victory, because we respond to visible things, and that was a visible atrocity that was shared with the world.
And I agree, and I think it was the fact that he was so young too, and people of that same age group were just appalled. he was young, he's my age. You know, it wasn't like he was 30 or millennial even. So I know that, I think that affected young people and people all over.
What we'd like to do now is give an opportunity for the elders at the table to make a 1.5 minute summary statement so that we can bring the other young people from Friendship Baptist Church to join the discussion, appreciating so much what you have offered and knowing that we're going to have a part 2 because this discussion can go on and on. So let's ask our adults. By the way, let me take this liberty. One of the parents, the parent of Jordan, happened to come in and give a history of the 18th and Vine building, the historic Lincoln building, which is why I asked her to sit down. But in making these summary remarks, we will go from here to here to here, and then we will invite the rest of the young people in.
Okay.
This building has history that Kansas City should always be proud of. This building was one of the first buildings renovated by Kansas City for us to be used. I walked in here and it just brought back all kind of exciting times where we were making strides to blend people together. And you look at what 18th and Vine is doing now, we see people of every race, of every age walking around here. We should be proud of what has accomplished, but the young people, remember your history so you can bring it into the future.
All right.
What I want to share with the young people is my hopes that they realize that they don't look back at the civil rights movement, because man's struggle against inhumanity is eternal. It may change its clothes, it may change its name, but it is the same. It is the intent of one group to keep another group down, and where that resides in their heart is fear. They are afraid that if you get up, that you will be just as atrocious as they were. And I pray that we promise ourselves that as we grow as a people and a community, that we realize that the most powerful thing that we can ever do is care for each other, be an example for our family, and as Jesus tried to teach us, he tried to teach us the power of loving our enemies. And as I worked in the civil rights movement, I'll have to say this: there were always Caucasians there in the midst of us, walking with us, encouraged. We could not have done it by ourselves. They were with us, and good people are with us now. I'm out in the world all the time, and I'm going to tell you something. People every day are bending over backwards to be gracious. They want it to be known that I'm not like those who are displaying their ignorance in full volume before the world. I'm not like that. And so what we must do is we must realize that we have a legacy to lead, and that legacy is to be better than, never be allowed anything to drag us down to their level.
I think one of the best things that I can hold dear is that we had a black president. And when you see what's going on today, I don't know if you guys ever see anything on TV or hear it on the internet or whatever, our current leadership is a different breed of person. And so I'm so glad that I was still here in my lifetime that I got to see an African American president who is smart, honest, and wanted us to be better than we are. So history is repeating itself in some ways. How they, you know, when you go for a job, they look at your color, and if you're a female, that's 2 strikes right there. And some of that is still going on today. So I want you young people to be aware, get involved, speak up, and if you don't, and find out what's going on. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because people my age usually have an answer, and it's always right.
Let me indicate to you that this is why I said at the very beginning, and you will hear me continue to say, please archive this show. Mr. Carlos Nelson, founder, CEO, producer, Cascade Media, is allowing us an opportunity to talk about connecting KC. And Brother Nelson, we applaud you for that effort, and we particularly applaud our very special guests on segment 1 of Connecting KC on Cascade TV. My name is Carl Boyd, asking that we seize this singular opportunity to make a collective difference. Connecting KC on Cascade TV. I'm Carl Boyd.